Hi, welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and this is part 3 of a new project to build a new SaaS that's called Journal Inbox. It's going to be a journaling software. I'm going to walk you through the process of building this from scratch. So that is the plan. We're going to work on Signup today, finishing up some stuff we worked on last week. You can go check out, I've got a new playlist created, so if you want to check out my site and here on YouTube and check out my playlist, you can find the playlist. It's going to contain all of the streams related to this project. I will do every line of code for this project live on this stream. I'm not going to do anything outside of the stream, which I've done in previous projects. So this is a chance to see the whole journey of building a SaaS. Journey Inbox is probably an appropriate name for that perspective. So let's get to it. We're going to continue on with this auth setup that we were doing. We'd set up some stuff last week, including this Django all-auth project, and did a bunch of configuration. And now it's time to move on to some of the specifics. So let's move to this next item here, which is email templates, and then see how that's going to work and get email configured and all of that good stuff. You're free to ask me anything about Python, Django, or web development. That's why I'm here after all. Yeah, John, welcome. I don't know if it's going to be another 3-hour stream this evening. That one was a lengthy one, but we'll see. Maybe it is. So we'll get right into it and get to some code. We have to actually send email with this project. So what I was thinking we'd start with is, can we go through the sign up process and see how that would work and see what it would do currently if we just tested things out. This sending email stuff that comes with Django all-auth has some customization that we can do that we need to do in order to make this app complete. And so there's some templates that we need to write here that are going to be related to these things. But I want to go first through the actual process, see how it works, see what roadblocks we hit, and then see if there are other things that we need to set up. I suspect there are. There's probably at least the email backends setting that happens with Django to make sure that email sending works. And I don't know that we'll take the tangent into actually sending up Django Anymail, which is a very popular email backend to use that configures with a lot of email service providers, ESPs. But that may be for a different day, but we'll see. Who knows? Maybe we'll get to it after all. All right, so again, nothing up my sleeve here. We're at the latest on this code. The only thing I've done since last time is actually push up the code. So that was from the last stream. We're ready to get to it and start up the web server and then see how this works out overall. So I'm going to start up the local web server here by running Heroku make local. And I think we fixed everything so that this should be enough to get going. We don't have a route here at the root yet. So if I did this, it's going to give me a 404 not found. But you can see that we have this accounts section, and we have accounts, and there's a login page, but there's also a sign up link, which is down here. And we were using the default template provided by this service. Oops, I'm already logged in though, so that's not going to work. There was a setup thing that we need to do. It's one of our to-do items. So getting back to the issue, there's this next bullet, which is fixing to-dos. So if we got this other, don't be confused by this other 404. That's because it's being redirected to accounts profile. That will change. That's a default from Django that we don't want. So that'll be corrected in a little while. But so first thing I guess we need to do then is log out, because we only are going to see the sign-in page when someone is not logged in, when they're unauthenticated. And so we need to get back to the beginning. All right, so let's try this again. Let's go to accounts, sign up, and see what happens. So I'm going to use some just dummy accounts, and this might blow up for us right on step 1. We'll see. So I'm going to create one here that is testing at somewhere.com, and then we'll take no, I want to actually have a password that I can remember potentially, so I'm going to put in something that's easy for me to remember, and I'm going to try to hit sign up, and I actually don't know what's going to happen here, if it's going to blow up on us or if it's going to just say it's successful and then kind of fail silently in the background. I'm hitting sign up here. It is doing something. So connection refused. I have no idea what it just did there. So let's dig into it. See what it says. So this is very curious. There's a big stack trace here, so it's doing some rendering. and it's getting through all this stuff. And at the end, it's sending this confirmation email, which is using Django's email interface here to actually send a message. And then it's trying to, in that process, open something and open a connection. But at some point along the way, it's realizing, in a very generic way, I guess, that it just can't do it. There's no backend. So I wasn't too surprised by these results. Might have destroyed a little test account that we could use because it didn't actually send anything. So we need to go set up the email backend. Now, we're not ready to send actual emails, nor do I want to do that in my development setup. So I want to use a particular kind of email backend that is going to dump the output to the terminal console. So the actual emails that we want to send will show up in the terminal. This is necessary because, well, for a couple of reasons. One, we don't want to send email. And then two, I want to be able to see the content, and there's going to be HTTP, there's going to be links in there that we need to configure to be able to click on in order to finish the account activation for signup. So that's where we're at. Let's go to the Django docs and see if we can find the email backends stuff. So let's search for email backends, maybe is the right way to get to this. There's the settings, email backends. Looks like the backends are listed in this other page that I skipped over. So this talks about the email interface, and frankly, we don't need to know about the email interface yet. As a reminder, this whole app is going to be about sending emails to do journaling, so we'll be very familiar with the email interface at some point, but right now, we're just relying on the email features that are built into the all-auth project to actually do the confirmation emails. So what we need to do is search through here and find the backends feature. There's an email backends here. We'll jump to that. And there are multiple different backends that we can have. So you could have an SMTP backend. So if you actually wanted to connect directly to an SMTP server, which is the simple mail transfer protocol, which is the protocol that all emails are built off of, you could do that. Most people probably don't these days, but that is a possibility especially if you're a big enough enterprise to do that. And it might even be the default. I'm actually not sure. So actually, I think we saw it, in fact. Let's go back a little bit. Yeah, the email backend is the SMT email backend. So what was happening, now we can piece together the full puzzle from why we get that connection error. So what happened when we tried to send an email was it created an instance of the SMTP email backend and then tried to send on that. But the connection that was supposed to be there wasn't configured at all. So the SMTP backend was trying to connect to something that wasn't there, and it finally said connection refused. You don't get that information from this error message, which is kind of sad. It'd be nice if they could intercept that, they being the Django dev team, and do something maybe right at this layer in the open part. But that's not how it works today. That's fine. But that's just for your knowledge of why did it fail that way. So let's jump back ahead and see what other kinds of email backends are there. We've got the SMTP backend, but importantly, we have this backend right here. This is the console backend. And we're going to add this as a configuration. And you can see very clearly it's not intended for production use because it's not sending any actual emails to a destination, but it is putting stuff out on standard out so that we can see everything we need to see. So I'm going to take this value and I'm going to plug it in somewhere. The email backend, I think, is just a top level setting. Yeah, it's just a string that we need to set. So we're going to go into our settings file, and I don't think I have anywhere in here yet. Email backend, yeah. So let's come to the top, and we need to make this configurable because this is going to be something that will run one way in development mode and then another way when it comes to the production website. So I want to, well, I need to think about this. We're not going to do any mail today, so I've said in the past that I like my settings to be the right thing for the default for the production environment. So that we're going to violate that this evening and then fix it later, and I'll put some big obvious comment in there about what we're going to do. This will make sense in just a minute. So let me just write this out, and you'll be like, oh, that's what he meant. So let's first name our parameter or environment variable that we're going to expect. And it's going to be a string type because that's what Django wants. And then this second value is the default one. And here I'm going to say fix me, replace with an email backend, which will be a future project. We have I don't know what issue number it is. I don't know that it really matters, but there's a future one of these that says set up email, send grid configuration maybe. Yeah, so number 10. So issue number 10. And then we can put this comma trailing here. And now we've got an email backend that's going to be expected by this environment thing. Or actually, it's not going to be expected. It's going to be this fix me string, which is really not great for the moment, but it's okay. We're going to override the setting to get going, and then we can work from there. So now we're going to dig down a little bit further here and go into each of our sections. And I'm going to start reordering little bits of these pieces here, just so that I have some kind of system in my head to memorize in the future. I've said last time that I order this so that in the settings, the Django stuff comes at the top, and then like third-party apps after that, and then my own localized settings after that. But within that scheme, I want to try and put some kind of ordering here if I can. Does that make sense? Like I was thinking of alphabetizing some of the stuff. Maybe it's just not worth it. I think I will slowly have that be an emergent property of these settings. So if I'm thinking about alphabetizing this, then we could put it after this auth section. If I summarize, can we use cast list instead of list? I don't need a list right now, so I'm not sure what you're referring to. Are you talking about right here? This is part of the Django environment stuff for how they want to declare those different types. So that's just the way this particular third-party package works. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so after auth is where we'll put email, and we're going to create a new section here. We'll call it email, and it's the email backend section. And we want to read from the environment object, and we want to read out the email backend. Okay, so the way this would work right now is if we try to do that same signup process again, there's not even going to be a valid email backend. In fact, let's see what happens. Let's see if Python or if Django properly starts up, or if it tries to validate the backend. It may just be totally fine and only fail at runtime, but it may check the backend. I don't know. So this is something I'm just curious about. So if we go to the sign up page again, no, nothing. Okay, but I bet if we went through it again, it's gonna be like, what are you doing? So let's try testing. Oops. Testing at somewhere.com, and then we'll put in a junk password. And yeah, it says like, so here's our string that you can see. Doesn't look like a module path. So it's trying to load the backend from the particular module, and it just can't do it. So it's time to replace that with our actual settings. So we need to go to our environment example file, and here we're going to add email backend, and we're going to set our dev value to be the one that is here. We're going to take this, and we will copy it and drop it in here. And so now we have this new email backend that if we restart, actually, whoops, I had an extra quote at the end there, that would have messed us up. So if we retry this thing, so let's try it again. Let's start this up again. Oh, that's not going to work because that's just in the example. So let's take this and let's put it in the env file as well. All right. So now we should have the real console backend going. We should be able to return to the sign up page. Just do a get request here again, bring this up again, and then say testing at somewhere.com and put in a password and hit enter. And now, not sure why it's taking so long, but it processed. That took a little longer than I thought. I don't know what happened there. But here we are. We've got, so we'd gone through all the settings last time. I'm not going to revisit them all because there were a lot of them that actually took probably 30 or 45 minutes to be complete about it. But the way this sign-up process is going to work for this site is you're going to have to go to your email and verify it before you can actually activate your account. It's a pretty common flow in a lot of systems. But the reason I'm doing this is because the service is all about sending email. So I want to make sure that you actually own this email address and I don't start sending random people email addresses. So it's just an honest thing to do. And since the whole interface is going to be centered around email, I'm willing to put a little bit of friction here. Like some people have a mindset of like, well, don't bother with that. Just accept it and move on. But this is important since the whole service is going to be about sending email. So here's the default template of we have sent an email to you to verification. We'll change this template maybe a little later. In fact, do I have this as one of the items to do? We could consider that. So we're going to do, so we're trying to get to email templates, but we kind of backed up into the email setup. So this is what we just did. And we need a template. So we have a template for login in here, but we also need an item for the add template for email verification page. Okay, we'll do that in the future. And importantly, this is the thing. Oh, we were using one that already exists. So we screwed it. I messed this up because I was using existing account data and it didn't have the email set up right. So let's go try this again. Maybe that's part of why we got this message, although that looked like okay. So let's come over here. We should be able to go sign up page because the other part of this is I made it so that it won't actually sign you in on that sign up process because you have to go through the verification part. So we're not actually authenticated yet. So now let's do testing2 at somewhere.com. This will certainly be a email address that doesn't exist. We'll come here, we'll hit that. We get the message right away. This is a flash message that we can configure later. We can talk about that a different day. Actually, I'm going to write that down because we're going to need it. Set up flash messages. We'll explain that later. Okay, coming back here, now we got the email that I expected to see. So the email is sending two different kinds of email, and they're putting both of them to the console. There's both the HTML email, so this is the plain text email, I think, and then, or maybe they're both plain text. Where's the MIME type on this? I'm not seeing it. UTF-8, text plain. Maybe because I didn't have an HTML version, it was just sending it out both as plain text. But you can put in both an HTML email template and a text email template. And the idea is like there are plenty of people out there that still rely on text emails. So recommendation often for these for sending emails is having both types of emails, which is a little annoying, frankly. But if you keep your emails simple enough, which I intend to do, then it shouldn't be too much variation. So, I'm seeing it now. This is actually the first one. So I should have put more spaces there, but so this is the one that we sent. It only sent one email, but you can see here it's got this link that we can follow, and this is the verification email. That's kind of the hash is baked into this. This is a setting that we checked. And it's enough that there's no server-side state, but it's enough that it can validate an email based off of some salt or something like that. All right, so if we open this up, it looked like it broke, but it actually worked. Again, what happened was when you are authenticating, there is a login redirect URL, which by default in Django goes to accounts/profile. So the process that we didn't see here that we would have seen if I had the network tab up is that it went to that link, it accepted it, and then it tried to redirect wherever the login URL was supposed to be, or the login redirect URL, and it went to the spot, which is, so the end state looks bad, but it's actually a success. That's a little confusing. Sorry about that. All right, so now we know that the sign-up flow works. We've got an email, we've got the start of an email setup, so we're confident in that. I think we can return to this, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on all this yet because we have other items for like setting up templates and stuff. So I don't really want to dwell too much on this, but maybe that's what we need to do. Yeah, because this one, and this one are all really templates. So we really need to like go back to number 2 first and then set that up and then come back to this. So let's look at those to-dos that I left in the app and let's see if we can clean that up. And then from there, kind of declare victory on this first portion. So we've got this set login URL. Let's go read the all auth settings to figure out what was this thing that I needed to do, because I set this to default, or maybe they're both saying they both go to the same place. So let's go remind ourselves, because I don't remember what configuration we're looking at. So we need count email confirmation anonymous redirect URL. So it's the settings login URL is what it's saying. The URL to redirect to after a successful email confirmation in case no users logged in. Well, that's not going to be us, but we might as well set it, I think is what we're getting at here. And the other one was the redirect URL. Now there are multiple ways authenticate a redirect URL. Where am I missing it? Oh, it's right below it. So if it's set to none to use the login redirect URL. And the default is none. So that's why we're leaving it as the default. So we want to set up both of these login URL and login redirect URL, I think. And let's check the settings with Django. So let's look for login. You can see, I don't want to change the login URL because that's accounts login. That's where we want to be. That's fine. But I do want to change this one, the login redirect URL. So I'm going to get rid of this message. That was actually a lie. And login redirect URL. So where do I want to put this? Probably up with the auth stuff. This feels like authentication. It's like in the auth section. Yep. That's where Django developers think it goes to. So let's go back up to the auth section up here, and we'll say login redirect URL. And then we will do, I'm going to set that to be just slash. Now, is this, let me think about this. Is this what I want to do? Because there's a way you could say, like, actually, you know what, set this to something that you could do a Django reverse on it, do a reverse name lookup, and have that be a reverse lazy. But I think that's way overkill for what we need. Let's get down here. So, see, it says the URL or named URL pattern where requests are redirected to after login. So the named URL pattern is going to be when you give this is when we do hook up the top level route, we could use that as the name and it would go there eventually. Set the logout at the same time. Do we need to set the logout? What is that one set to? Or is there a logout in here? I'm not sure what setting you're referring to there, John. Maybe I'm not. Oh, the logout redirect URL. If none, no direct redirect will be performed and the logout view will be rendered. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably a good call. So maybe I can set both of them back to the root. So let's do that. Let's take, in fact, let's just copy paste and change this to logout redirect URL. Put them both at that. Now, so the other way that's eventually we'll have some kind of core view. I don't know where I'm going to put it yet. Of this is the main entry point to the app, and that could be a URL name instead. But I think the slash would work here. So I'm not 100% confident on this, so I actually want to test this out again and make sure that it's doing what we expect it to do. Usually get the named login page when you can, yeah. Once I have configured some URLs, I might come back and set that. That's a good point. All right, so let's start this up. Let's go back to our page. I think we're logged in now. So again, we're gonna have to fiddle with some URLs ourselves for a moment until we've done all this stuff. That went to the root again, and we want to go back to sign up. So now if everything's working and we come back to the, so if I put in a third account, so let's put in testing3@somewhere.com, put in a password, hit enter. That takes surprisingly long on the reboot for the web server. I'm not really sure what's going on there. So it sent that email. Here's the email. We can right click. Now, if this worked well, I'm going to open this URL and it's going to take us to / instead of accounts profile, which will still, again, give us an error page, but at least it'll be the final destination that we expect once we set up that route. Whoops. Cannot. Okay. Open. There it goes. And it put us right at the root there. So that's exactly where I wanted to go. All right, so I feel good about that. Let's see. That fixes those to-dos. Did I delete the other to-do? Or did I leave it? No, I still got it. So we got the to-dos cleaned out. We're done there. All right, so we're not done with this issue, but I'm done with the templates for the moment. We're gonna take a pause here, and then come back to this in a second. So let's go over here. Let's check out what we've done. We set up the email backend. We set up the login, logout, redirect URLs. We cleared out the to-dos. So we'll commit this stuff, and we'll say add email backend, and that's for issue number 1. How many times do you get to work on issue number 1? Probably not that many. Unless you make tons of repositories. Maybe you do it all the time. I don't know. Okay. Now, let's go kind of up the conceptual stack, down the conceptual stack. I don't know. And we'll work on the template configuration for a bit. There's hopefully not a lot to do here. Templates are already configured to some degree. We can find them here. And we're using Django templates. I'm not going to change that. We're using the debug, request, and auth and messages context processors. I'm not going to change those, nor am I even going to discuss them. We're going to keep appdrs to be true, which tells Django templates to look in different templates directories within the different installed applications. That's necessary for well, we just saw it with the Django all auth stuff. In order to find the templates that were used, we didn't create any of those templates, they just existed. But really what we need is to use this DIRs option. And this is going to give us a place to put our templates. There's a couple of different schools of thought on templates. One school of thought is always put your templates inside of the Django apps that you're building. So we've got an accounts Django app right now, and we could put them inside of that in a templates directory. That's what appdrs would do. And then another way to do this is to set in a specific template directory that you can put stuff in. And that's what the DIRs option does. And in fact, you can have multiple of these places. I like to put a top level templates directory because it puts all my templates in a single location, and then it's very much easier for me to navigate around. That's my personal preference. So we're going to take base dir and we're going to create a templates directory that doesn't exist yet. And that should be the whole setting that we need. Let me look at your comment here, John. You wish they used a separate table for unauthenticated users. I'm interested of what that would look like. They would get moved when the reply email. Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess from Django's perspective, it doesn't even know about all this email stuff and the verification. And I think I want to say, no, I guess you're right. It did create a user even though the verification email hadn't happened. You're right. So that is a downside. So somebody can theoretically like come in and spam your sign up process and not only send out a bunch of bogus emails, but just kind of lay claim to email addresses that you didn't intend to. That'd actually be kind of sucky. So if if the service that I build ends up becoming quite popular, I might want to have checks that like go through and look for unverified email accounts periodically and delete them. Like if someone has never verified after 3 months, I don't know. There might be some protections worth building there. It's a good thought. I hadn't really considered that, John. So appreciate calling that out. Okay, so we're gonna put the templates directory. So this should be the base directory. In fact, let's verify that. Diff settings base directory. Yeah, you can see it right there. Matt projects journal. So our base directory is that, and then we said that it's going to be under templates. So we'll make a new directory here. We'll call it templates. And then I think we're ready now to do our own email template. So that should be it for the templates configuration, but I'm going to kind of mix some of these things together, or at least put the start of a template here, and then we can go back to our issue 1 and then close out number 2. So the path for templates is, where was it? It was, oh, I don't remember. I know it's in this. I put the link in here. Okay. So the way all auth has written their templates is they expect to find it at this path, and this is what we're going to create. So we're going to create an account directory, an email directory, and then the email confirmation sign up subject and sign up message. And then you can also do, like it shows here, you can do the HTML version. I don't have, actually, now that I say it out loud, I don't know that we need the subject. What was the subject that it provided? Let's go back and look. Let's see. This subject is fine. Journey inbox, which we set that setting. This is this value of this journey inbox dash part. And then please confirm your email address. I have no reason to change that. So we're just going to change the actual body of this to be something a little nicer than this silliness. Hello from that? What? No. That's not going to be what I want. Okay, so let's go here and do make dir, what is it, dash P? Does that make child directories? So we want account email. Yep. And then we can go to templates, account email, and we need to follow their naming exactly. So we want, let's start with the email confirmation sign up message txt. So that's the body. Let's put that as the file name, and we'll save it. Close that. I'm going to start by stealing, well, it's not stealing, it's open source. That's the whole point of this. I'm going to start by using the templates that they provide. Let's go to the project, because it's got some context variables. So the way the template stuff happens, or the email stuff happens, is it treats the email body as a template, and it fills them with context data and puts it through a rendering process, and then sends all of that content out as the actual body. So we want to come into here and come into the templates area and go to account and email, and here we are. These are the ones that are coming by default. I looked through most of these already. There's probably ways that we could polish some of these to make them better. I'm not interested in doing that right now. I don't think it's super important. So what we really need is the confirmation sign up message, which is under this thing on confirmation, email confirmation message. They included a different one. It's the same thing. They've got it replicated. And you can see there's a bunch of stuff that, like, I'm not going to need most of this because I'm not going to do internationalization on this app. That's really just not a goal for me. I don't feel like walking through that. I don't feel a lot of utility for that. It's not a market I'm really trying to service. people who speak a different language are welcome to use the English interface. I know that's a little not thinking of the full community, but that's the way I feel about it for now. Okay, so this is our text template. So we need to, and this is part, you can partly see why. Like when you introduce internationalization, it's a lot of work. I don't know how else to say it. There's these translation blocks, there's stuff you have to put in here, there's all this stuff. So really what I'm looking for, what I really wanted to copy this in for is this activate URL. That's the thing that we ultimately need. So we can keep this stuff in here for a moment as I'm drafting the new email, and then we can pare it down from there. So this is the text version. Let's say, welcome. I don't know, is that silly? Welcome to Journey Inbox. To begin your journey, I'm going to be cheesy at first, and then maybe we can wordsmith in a minute. To begin your journey, you need to verify your email address. No Canadian. Are we that different? I don't know. Sometimes I've thought about color and all of those classic words that throw in some extra U's or change little things here and there. I love my Canadian friends. To begin your journey, you need to verify your email address. And then we'll just say, go to activate URL. And we'll leave that there. I don't want to put a period after that because some email tools probably would read that period as part of the URL and do some weird stuff. And then I need to sign off. Regards. I'm gonna do like I did for the homeschool app, the School Desk app, which is the idea of leaning into this is I'm not some, how should I say this? I'm going to take advantage that I'm one person and own that. Some teams try to be like, we're a company, we're a team, when they're really one guy or one gal that's doing everything. Instead, I'm going to put my face on it and say this is me. This is a small business, and I'm not some weird, or not weird, but I'm not some faceless corporation here. So I'm going to say, regards, Matt from Journey Inbox. And then I'll, on the about page, I'll include some information about me. So people will be able to connect with that. So now that we've got that, is it going to be weird if I said journaling journey? It seems a little redundant because that's what a journal is, a log of your journey. That's the part of the reason I chose the name. So good question, John. Do I need the block content? No. And the reason is because I don't even need this. The only reason I would need that is if I was actually using their base. So I'm actually going to ditch all of that stuff there. None of that's going to be necessary. In fact, I don't need the user display. I don't care because their username is their email address. So that's not going to be helpful. And I don't need to tell them the site domain. They were just there. And so I don't want to tell them that either. So really, I think the only thing I need is the activate URL. So I think this is the whole thing. So let's try this. See if I got this right. And that it's using our custom version. And then we'll do the same thing for the HTML version. and whip that out really quickly. It's going to be the same content, and I'm just going to wrap it in paragraph text. So I'm going to keep the actual emails as simple as possible, because I like that simplicity. I don't think there needs to be big flashy graphics or anything like that. I don't think that's going to be helpful. In fact, if I'm sending a lot of emails to these people, a lot of these email services have quotas and stuff, and like I don't need to send the same image over and over again. I don't know if that's going to count against their capacity for their inbox service, so that would just be a waste to include images and things like that. All right, so let's try this. We're going to do make. We'll go back to the sign up page. So let's go to log out and sign out and sign up. Now we want to do testing for at somewhere.com. See how it did. So it sent the email, and here it is. Welcome to Journey Inbox. I don't know why my new lines got killed. There's another tool that we could use in the future. Probably a bunch of tools now, but the one I've used in the past that has worked pretty well is a tool called MailHog. So MailHog acts like an SMTP. It's basically an SMTP sync. So instead of sending it to the console here, we could send these actual emails to this MailHog program, which is runs basically a local SMTP server, and then it provides a UI that gives you a little email client that is based on Chrome, so that you can view your message as it would actually render, at least from a Chrome perspective, in that app. So that's a good way to like confirm that stuff. And we probably should, especially when we get later on to the emails that we want as the core of the service. Of this is like the prompt that we're going to send to users every day. I wanted that to look good, and I want to have an easy way to test it if I ever need to change the format. Okay, let's do this. Let's kill that. And I want to take the same thing and make an HTML version. And I'm going to start with a template that I have from the homeschool project because it's just going to be easier. Account, email, because it's virtually the same thing. I'm consistent. I wrote this years ago, and I did Matt from School Desk. So I'm sticking to the same strategy. Which, cool. Glad I'm consistent. Email, confirmation, sign up, message, HTML. Let's paste in. Whoops, that's not what I intended. That's not what I intended. Did I not copy that right? I didn't. I did the wrong kind of copy. Just yanked it in from Vim. That was the wrong Vim. All right, so we've got Matt from School Desk. This is going to be Journey Inbox. We're going to stick with the no spaces throughout. That's going to be consistently how I want to do this. And then we'll put this side by side. We've got that line. Oh, boo. Not what I was going for. Sometimes when it comes to like copying and pasting across stuff, I'm not as fast as I would like to be. You're right. The reason that I'm not doing what you're suggesting, so the suggestion is to render the username object right after the welcome section, is the username. We can go look at this a little bit later, but the username is going to be an extraction from the email address. So it's going to be a little weird. Like it's not going to be like FA. It would be like, whatever the first part of your email address is before the @ sign. I think that's how it works. And And if there was ever a conflict with a different username, it would include some like random numbers. So it's actually not something I even want to expose to the users. So the best that they would get is their email address. Is like, that's the most accurate representation of their username. And if I'm sending you an email, your email address is already present in the from field, right? Or the to field. So I don't think it's helpful in this case to kind of supply things that way. Okay. So let's delete that stuff. Yank to the end. Put it there. And I want to say, let's do it the same way. Go to. Oh, this is HTML now, so this is a different story. But we can delete this line. Go to the activation page. Or, it feels weird. Let's say follow this activation link. What do y'all think? Does that seem okay? And there's also there are paranoid people out there that like to see the actual URL. So maybe that's not very charitable. There are people out there who are nervous about clicking links in their email, which is a reasonable stance on things. So maybe I'll do this. Maybe we'll add a postscript. We'll do a new paragraph that says, P.S. The link above is to activate URL. Just for those folks who like to see that stuff. I've never understood that, but then again, I don't know, people think differently, and I don't want to judge folks on that. So that seems to work. We've now got both templates, and we can try it again. And this time, what should happen is all auths should detect that there are two templates that have the same path, but one's of different extensions. And you're going to see instead of like up here, this is a single, I don't remember where it's going to differentiate, but somewhere along the way here, I think it might be in the content type. It will change to, I believe, a text multi-part or something along those lines. And then it will have two of these different messages. One will be the plain text, and then the other will be the HTML version. Let's go create testing 5 and then complete this portion of the sign-up process. So log out. We really got to give ourselves a home for that stuff, but we'll get there. Okay, testing 5 at somewhere.com. Give a password, hit sign up. And there it is. Yeah, cool. So content type is a multi-part alternative. All right, so I was slightly wrong on the name, but it was close enough. It was multi-part was the thing. And the reason it's multi-part is because they need to send two different varieties of type. And there's some weird encoding for that, how that's happening, or it's weird if you've never seen it before. I guess it makes sense if you have. And then we've got text version, which we already saw. And you can see text plain is the content type there, so that's sensible. And then we've got text HTML is the second one. And it's got our full HTML message here with all the stuff that I would expect to see. So there's the href of the actual link, and that's going to look like an activation link. And then there's the PS message of the link above is to this, which I think people will appreciate. All right, cool. So I feel good about our sign-up templates. They will be good enough to get us going. And then if we get some initial feedback from people in the sign-up saying like, oh, this is super bland, or I don't know. I don't know what they might say. They might say it's perfect as the way it is. We can react to that later. So we're going to add here, and this does I guess we killed two birds with one stone, kind of. We got the email template done, and then we fixed number 2. Because I've confirmed in that process that our DIRS configuration was correct. So this is done. Let's commit this, and we'll say add template configuration and email confirmation template. Fixes number 2. Cool. And push that up, and it should close this issue. That's what the fixes does. And it did. Okay. Part of me kind of wants to get the auth thing totally done so we can stop thinking about it, but that might dig up quite a few rabbit holes to run down. I think I'm mixing metaphors. So templates for login. Because here's what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking through this. We will need a login template, and we have a place for that. So it's going to be one of these places that Django all auth. We need to override something else. So it's going to be down here. We would do account login, I guess. So we'll need to do that. But in order to do that, we're going to rely on a different base, which we have not set up yet. So I'm just wondering if it's even helpful to go that route right now, or if it makes more sense to start something else. Let me pause for a second and think on this. If I'm going to do a base, part of me wants to do the homepage first, because that's going to cause us to set up the main URL routes, give a home for that view, which is going to need its own app. I'll probably end up calling it core, because that's just an easy thing for the really common stuff. I think in that process, we'll need to set up testing for that, which we need to refine the unit test setup, and it will be a good opportunity to introduce test coverage, which is number 12. So there's a bunch of things that I think we need to continue on in order to get that. John, I don't know if you noticed this, but I did record your SMS idea here, so didn't forget about that from the other stream a few weeks ago. So let's do that. Let's go down this home page path, because there's 2 different things here. And oh man, I'm overloading this with like stuff that's going to be there. So we won't be able to do parts of this yet because there are things that it's depending on. So that's probably why I set up the things in the order that I did. But I'd rather have something to go to, and I'm tired of like getting that 404 message and clicking around and changing the URL directly. That's annoying. I'd rather just put in a base template that has some basic links that we can then figure out and customize to a minimal level and style later. All right, so let's create a new app for this, and let's rethink like how far do I want to go. I want to have the unauthenticated path for this, and then we'll punt on the authenticated part because there's not going to be any entry to view yet, or any of these features here. Those are actually, I'll probably just strip that out and put it in a new issue. Is the reality. In fact, let's do it now. Let's call this authenticated homepage. design the experience for the home page when user is logged in. Okay. So now we can rethink the kind of the success criteria for this. So we want the unauthenticated page. We need, make that a to-do. We need a core app. We need to test it. And I think I want to have add test coverage, which is actually number 12, but it feels like it should belong together with this. Because I want to start early by measuring test coverage, because if I get behind and then need to get back up to 100%, like it's doable, but it's just better to have some confidence early. This might even get us down a path where we go ahead and set up GitHub Actions. I don't know. There are some things about the testing setup too right now that are not ideal. Our testing settings are not great. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I want to add one right away, right after I do this. So let's update that. Let's go back here, because before I forget, let's go back to the settings page. Or nah, not even the settings page. Let's go to the end example. And I want to take this, and I want to go to the testing settings. And here's the thing that I want to do. Oops. I want the email backend to be the console backend always. That's not even what I want. That's sorry. Maybe that's not even it. That's not what we want during test runs. There, maybe another backend. Aha, here it is. The local memory backend is really, I think, what we probably want. Django's test runner automatically uses this backend for testing. I don't know that, because I'm using PyTest, I don't know if PyTest Django does this. So the local memory backend is a way of saying, like, whatever you're going to send as an email, just stick it into memory instead. And the reason to do that is, again, we don't want tests accidentally sending out email. I'm going to put that here. And now, no matter what happens, whenever the tests run, they're always going to use this email backend, regardless of whatever my environment is set to. So that's a good safety net here. I'm going to override the email backend from the main settings file. So we can run PyTest. We've got our one test in there. We're ready to go. Okay. So next, let's create a new app. So manage, start app. I'm going to call this one core. And I create a core app for things that like don't have a super fantastic home conceptually on their own. So like a main page that is actually an amalgamation of a bunch of different concepts, or utilities that are going to be used by many other applications might go in here, although I try and shy away from that if I can. It's useful to have a core Django app around, I've found. And you can call this whatever you want, but this is the name that I'm going to go with. So we've got this, we've got it at the top though, so remember we need to move, I'm moving all this stuff underneath journal. So that's there. And then before I add that to the Git stage, I'm going to go ahead and delete the test file because I never want it. Now I can add those files so that they're there. And the reason I add them is so that it gives them, so that NeoVim can see them easily. So I can just go straight to this now. And I can go to core apps. And we need to give this journal as the path. So we save that. What is that complaining about? Cannot be assigned. Okay. My my static analysis tools for my editor are not liking what that field is. It doesn't quite understand Django. It's fine. Now, coming into the installed apps section, now we can add our new core app, like so. And I think we're ready to write a test. Let's do this little test-driven development style, just to see if we can. This is like the first view test that we're going to write. So there's a bunch to do here, potentially. So we'll come up here and we're going to create a directory called tests. And it needs to be a package, so we need to give it an init file. We'll write that file, and then we'll create another file called testviews.py. Do that. And then I want to give this a name. What should be the name for the root URL? Home? I don't know. We can start with what we know. From journal core. It's not seeing that right now. Okay, let's quit out of here because my LSP is not seeing that directory. Can I do an LSP restart instead? Will it find it if I from journal? Oh, okay, cool. We didn't need to quit out. Nice. Journal core. Let's import it directly. We'll say views, and then I'm going to give the view name. I think I'm just going to call it home, for lack of a better name. Or you know what? Better name, index. That's kind of most representative, I think. Okay. So index is not accessed, and it doesn't even know what that is, which makes sense because we haven't put anything there yet. So we need to make our first view here. So def index, it's going to take a request. Should we do type annotations? Sure. Let's get that started now. Although I've seen, I don't know, they're of less utility with Django, I've found, but it's better than nothing. And then we can return. We want to render. Oh boy. Okay. Request is the first thing. Then the template name is going to be core index HTML, and we want to give it a context. And the context is an empty dictionary. And then we need to import those two. You know where this is from? No code action. Boo. From Django HTTP import HTTP request HTTP response. All right. So that is, I guess I said I was going to do test-driven development, and I kind of lied. I wrote a basic one. This is going to fail once we get the test going. So let's get the test going. So we'll say class test index, and I just want a basic kind of smoke test that it's going to be okay. But I need to get more specific than that because our views, they always need to have a user in mind. So I want to have my test indicate enough about what kind of case it's going to be. So I'm going to say test unauthenticated. And this is a class, so it needs to have the self attribute. And I know this is going to seem like wasteful, but I'm going to give every single one of my tests a doc string. Am I already lying on that? Test models? I am. This deserves a doc string. Let's see. The factory produces a valid instance. This seems a little unnecessary, but what I have found is that years later, if this is truly going to be a project for a long haul, years later, it is often useful to have test documentation strings in there, even when it seems obvious, because there are times where I want to add more details about like there's something extra that I'm putting in this test, or there are times where I thought that I gave the test method name a clear name, but then 6 months later, 9 months later, when that context wasn't in my head, I found out that I was wrong. So the doc string is a way to safeguard myself against those kind of mistakes. So let's see. An unauthenticated user gets a valid response. All right. So we need a client to do this. The client, let's go back to PyTest Django. Look at their fixtures. Client is a fixture that's available to you. It's the Django test client. And here's an example of, you can get this. You can call it on a path. I'm not going to use slash, I'm going to use reverse in order to if I ever change the name, I want to reference the right thing. So I don't ever want to hard code paths in there. That's not my style. And then we can assert on this. In the past, I've used a project called Django Test Plus. And I was looking at it, and it's really great for Django style test cases. But I think it is not so great for a PyTest thing. And my last project, I experienced a certain amount of friction when I was trying to use that. Whenever you want to use fixtures with anything that derives from unit test, which the Django test class does, it just doesn't work as nicely as you'd want it to. I'm going to try and avoid Django Test Plus and see if I can get away with the features that I need here and just like work with what's provided by PyTest Django. Okay, so we've got our client, and I want to say response is equal to client get. Now this is the part where Django Test Plus would be nice because it would automatically do a reverse. So we're going to have to import reverse ourselves, which thankfully the LSP can do for us. So we're going to say reverse, and then this is where I'm going to set a name that doesn't exist yet. So this will be the core index name. And then at the end here, we want to assert the response status code is equal to a 200. I guess we actually didn't need to import the index at all. That's only if we directly were calling the index, which we're not going to do. So if we test that, it says core is not a registered namespace. That's not surprising because we're not doing anything to bring that in. So we have to wire this all up together now. We've got the index route over here, but it's not being called. Nothing is reaching it yet. So we want to go to project URLs, and we're going to need to include our core stuff here. Well, let me think. Do I want to do that way? I might not want to. These core views may make sense because think about this. This is the route that's at the very root of the whole site. So there's nothing, it's not like accounts / something. It's just straight up /. So this might be one of the exceptions to the rule. So instead, I think I'm going to just put index here. And it's going to be like the index for the whole thing. So I do as well, John, like adding app namespaces. But I think it's maybe just not a good fit for this particular context. Same problem. Like if I run this, it's going to say I can't find this thing. So here we go. We're going to now go from journal core. Maybe I'll just import. No, let's import the specific view. .views import index. And then we want a new path. So let's put that at the right at the top. And that will just be an empty string. Django will figure out the trailing / on its own. And then we'll say index. And then we need to give it a name. The name is going to be index. That's what the reverse is using. Okay. So with any luck, we will get farther. It'll still fail, but this time I think it'll fail with a template error. Yep. So what happened is that template doesn't exist yet, which is no surprise. So it's time to go make it. If we now go out of here and up a level, go into our templates. Here we want to create a directory called core, and we want to create a file. Whoops. We want to create a file called index.html, and all I'm going to do is save it. It's literally empty. If we run again, we get a passing test. We run PyTest over here. We can now see we've got 2 tests that pass. Okay. That alone, so that gets the core app. Technically, that gets the unauthenticated path. Like we don't need to really put much in there yet. Maybe like we don't, maybe I'll just like save on the actual content of that until I need it. Oh no, I said the whole point of this was to have some route that actually did something. So we need something there. So we'll go add that. But I did test it. Let's add a new one. Build minimal content using a base template. Okay. But this is probably enough to commit so far, because it's already a lot of code. So let's add that stuff. Let's check out what we've done. We gave the doc string. The admin's going to yell at us when we commit that, so we can try it. And actually, let's not. We don't have anything to have for the admin here. There's no models yet. So we can delete all that. Gotta keep the apps as it is. We've got the models, but we don't have a model, so we're gonna delete all that. And we've got views as it is. Let's give this a doc string. Say the entry point for the entire for the website. Good enough for now. And let's check out that diff again. Okay, some empty files. There's that basic test. Got that. We hooked it in. We made sure that the email backend is going to do that. Okay. There's another thing I want to do, which is going to maybe help speed up the test a little bit. Right now, the tests are opening the local database file. So the settings that we have for development, the database section, database is here, is using the same SQLite 3 file. So in theory, if some transaction rollback doesn't work or something does commit and we use that, that's going to write to this test file that we're using for development purposes. We don't want that. We want to use, we still want to use the SQLite engine here, but I want to use the in-memory database. So let's open up the testing file and take this database section and bring it over here in the same way, and then we need to change the name. Now this is where I'm going to go again, like refer back to the homeschool app because it has it already. So, all right, so it says just use the, so it's this special name of :memory:. And I'll keep the comment. That's a good comment. So change that to :memory:. And Black rewrote it that way. Maybe I think I might want to keep it with the trailing comma, see if it'll let me stay that way. It just reads a little better to me than that one-liner. It's too condensed. So now if I run the whole suite, it might have actually been a little slower. I don't know why. I don't know. There's just some variance there. It's okay. Okay, we've got a little bit more settings there. And I think we're ready. What are we ready for? Let's treat this as a checkpoint. So add index view and write and include first view test. That's for, what number are we working on now? Number 6. Okay. So we need some coverage tools now. I've already got the makefile here that I had commented out this stuff. We've got our coverage tools. So this comment doesn't make any sense anymore because that's for the other project, but the target makes sense. So we can do that and then can get rid of that. And we need to change our coverage target to be journal. And now this isn't going to work because we don't have this cov flag yet, but all the rest of these options should be fine. So let's try this. Now notice that this one runs it with migrations. So that's what we're going to want on CI. So I've got this other one, which I realize now has a typo in the documentation, that has some stuff listed here for running the test in a faster mode. That's what this was all about. So if we uncomment this, whoops. No, not what I wanted. Uncomment that. And then, again, change this to journal. So this is going to be the thing that we want to be running long term, this fcov thing. Make fast coverage is what it's really after. Now here's where it complains because we don't have the --cov flag. So it's time to go set that up. And in order to do that, we're going to use another package. Time to go back to PyPI, which I thought I had at some point, but looks like we've closed it. So we're done, I think, with all auth settings. We'll use more templates later. Let's go to PyPI and look for pytestcov, I believe is the name of the project. pytestcov 410. So this is going to be a developer requirement. We don't want to install this in the actual app. I'm going to put it over here. And it's going to be pytest-cov, where cov stands for coverage. And we want 4.1.0, I think is what it said. now we can come back and then we can pip install that requirement. And you can see it actually installed two things. It installed PyTest Cub, but it also installed coverage toml. That's really the coverage tool that it's using under the covers. So now if we run make fcov, we're going to find out how we're doing. Or not. Unrecognized argument -n -dist. I'm missing the parallelization tools? Is that right? No way. Requirements. Oh, would you look at that? PyTest xdist is missing. So there's PyTest, I guess. I thought it had. Okay, let's take a pause. I might be using old tools there, so let's check on PyTest features because I thought that there were ways to parallelize built right into PyTest, but maybe that's not the case. So let's scan through here. This is the general section, and none of those are about going faster. What we're looking for is an ability to run with multiple processes, and that might just be PyTest xdist, but I thought they included this straight into the core of PyTest, and maybe I'm just wrong. None of those look like things that would run in parallel. The warnings thing is stuff that we already have in the configuration. Collection is a bunch of things that don't really matter right now. Test session debugging and configuration. Oh, it's none of those. It's not going to be a logging thing. And here's the new coverage stuff that we added. Here's the Django stuff. And there's the socket section. Okay, I guess I'm wrong. We're missing another one. So we need another package here in order to get the parallelization stuff going. That is PyTest xdist. So you can see here how it works. There's more information. This is trying to tell you how many processors to use, and there's an auto mode that tries to detect how many processors you have, and then distribute them. There's some other settings that I have found that have worked to varying degrees. So let's do this. PyTest xdist 331. So here, PyTest xdist equal 3.3.1. Go install that stuff again. And now let's try and run make fcov, and hopefully all the options are satisfied. Okay. Oh, cool. Not only did all the options get satisfied, but we have 100% coverage too, which is nice. Which isn't too surprising. We wrote the test, and there's not a lot of code in here yet. Now, that's not going to be super helpful initially. In fact, you can see, I bet that the fast coverage path is probably slower than the thing I just ran. We can find out. Let's do time PyTest. 0.42, there's 0.518 total. Make time make fcov 1.576. The difference is important. That this is actually running with coverage enabled, and coverage is something that is checking every line as it's going through, and it hooks into some low-level Python features in order to do this checking, and it slows down the execution. I don't know if it slows it down to the tune of a full second like you see here. What may actually be happening here is that while over the long haul, running with multiple processes will be faster, there's a cost to spinning up or forking, like creating a new process and forking it, and then starting a new process and sending it tests over inter-process communication. And that time is burdensome here. So it's actually faster. It would probably be faster if we didn't use, my guess, in fact, let's try it. Let's test this little theory. If we take out go back to that make file, and just for the moment, drop the parallelism here. So it's trying to run it on 4 processes and then distribute across the 4 files. So for the moment, let's just take all that stuff and just run coverage, and let's see how it does. Time make fcov. Yeah, so that was almost a second faster. And again, it all has to do with, like, it didn't need to create a bunch of extra processes in order to do this. But I'm going to leave it on, even though it's a little bit slower now, because as we add more tests over the long run, it will ultimately be faster. So let's do that. And then you can see I've even done, in the past, I've done kind of performance testing on what's the right number of processors. Like it's counterintuitive, but that startup cost for creating the processors and sending them the right number of tests can actually give different performance results. So here you can see I started with 8 CPUs thinking, well, surely that's going to be faster, right? And when I had 515 tests in my last project, it actually took 20 seconds. And between 4 and 2, I had 13 seconds versus 15 seconds. And now that's going to naturally vary depending on the processor. But you can see, I hope it gives you the idea that that this stuff can change. So we'll probably want to test that in the future, but not right now. Okay, let's come back and actually test it. So the difference with this setup is that it's running with any Django migrations, and this is going to make sure that if I've made any model changes, this coverage thing is ultimately the thing that we're going to want to run in CI, and it's what's going to keep us honest that we're actually running everything in the proper setup. Let's try that target as well. Should be the same behavior. Took a little bit more time here. So this is a faster one, but it still took a second, and that's because it had to run those migrations. Okay, overall though, we're done with that step. That was all that it took in order to get coverage going. But that's because I was kind of cheating and borrowing from my other homeschool project. But at least you got to see 2 new packages about how to set that up. So we'll say enable test coverage measurement fixes, what was it, 12? I think it was 12. Yep. Okay. Maybe it's time to do CI as well. Again, this is all about getting the safety nets. If we're at the coverage step, we have, I think, all of the elements that are needed for running with GitHub. So we probably should try it. Let's go to here. Number 12 is gone. Continuous integration, this is the step we need. So this is number 11. We don't have the directory yet. So we want a new directory. It's going to be GitHub. And another directory in here called workflows, I believe. And then we go and again borrow from my other project. We'll come over to this and we will go to this workflows section and create the file called tests YAML. And oh, boo, I didn't actually. There we go. Okay. There are things in here that do not make sense right now. That in fact I think should also be revisited because they're old. So we're gonna, this is where, unfortunately, CI is one of these things where you kind of have to run it for a little while and it's irritating because it's gonna fail on you and you have to wait over on GitHub and go back and forth. But that's what we need to do right now. So I'm going to delete a bunch of these things that I don't think we need yet. Some of them might come back in the future, but that's okay. For now, I think all we're going to need is allowed hosts. Allowed hosts. Then, yeah, the rest of those should be okay to leave off. So we'll try and take this down. And then we need to check the Ubuntu version. So this is a configuration project at this point. GitHub Actions, Ubuntu. I think we really want Ubuntu latest. So that way it doesn't, when we switch, you can explicitly say an Ubuntu version, which I did with the last project. Or you can do this, which is like a more of a moving target. So in this case, I don't really care. Like, well, maybe I do. Hold on. Let's check out one other piece of information. We want Heroku stack. Okay. So Heroku has this concept of a stack. It's essentially what's the operating system that you're going to deploy your app on. And as a reminder, my app is ultimately going to be running on Heroku as a hosted service. So we need to, we're going to use whatever stack they provide us. And this Heroku 22, which is the latest one, which why wouldn't we use that? It's based on a long-term supported version, is based off of Ubuntu 22.04. So I think I want to sync those up with my testing so that I'm always testing the same operating system version as the thing I'm deploying to. I got to remember somehow to keep those in sync, but I'll figure that out later. So let's say 22.04, and I want to say that there's even a new, like some of these things that I've used in here. The checkout action is at a new version. Setup Python's at a new version. We need to revisit these. So let's go to Actions, Checkout. Usage. I don't know that we need to set the fetch depth anymore. The default is 1, so we don't have to set the fetch depth. So we want to switch it to version 3. So this is the step that checks out the code. And we drop this part because I'm not using anything custom about that. Okay. Next, we're going to move. Let me check something over here. We need Python. Oh, I saw it there. So Python, they support up to 3.11. So we're going to stick with this Python version, but we need to find out if any of those other options are still relevant. So set up Python. So this is Python 4, not 2. I kind of wish that there was like, you know how there's a Dependabot that kind of keeps your packages up to date? It really would be nice if there's a system that said, let's keep your GitHub Actions stuff up to date. Maybe that feature's out there somewhere. I don't think the architecture stuff is needed anymore. I think that's old. It defaults to x64, so we don't need to explicitly say that. Cache. I don't know that we need to specify a cache dependency path, although maybe. Caching packages. Okay, yeah, we do. So we need to say pip And then we've got multiple files that we want to actually base our cache on. So if either the requirements txt or the requirements dev changes, then we want to cache on those. This may be necessary later, but for now, I'm going to get rid of all of this stuff. We're not doing anything with GraphViz right now. That will come later if we use it at all. It's really just like a tool to see the models. And then this may be necessary when we add Postgres support if we run with Postgres. So I'm going to delete this for now. Well, we will run with Postgres. It's a question of, is it going to be necessary for this stuff? We're going to continue to install the packages in the same way. Actually, do we need to do that anymore, or does it automatically install that? No, you still have to do that. I think you still have to do it yourself. Basic usage. Okay. So we're going to install that. I don't think this is necessary yet. We're not doing any type checking right now. And this is the target that we just fixed. And then we want to check that the deploy is right, but this might fail right now. But I want to keep this. But it might just break. And then I'm not using Sphinx in this project, and I don't plan to have, well, yeah, I don't plan to have like a big documentation site, so I don't need that either. Okay, so let's try this. I think this will be enough to get it running and see how it goes, and then we can go fix the errors over there, and then once CI is in place, then we can have the confidence that every time I deploy, or every time I push up the code, you can see if things are passing or not. Oh, there's another kind of CI that we want to get as well. So I've actually got two things. There's GitHub Actions, but we also want pre-commit.ci. That's why you don't see any like lint checking and stuff in that GitHub Actions thing, is because I pushed that off to pre-commit.ci, which is a really awesome CI system. It's free for open source projects, which mine happens to be, and will run your pre-commit file. So that way, if for whatever reason you forgot to add pre-commit somewhere, you can get that kind of checking going on your pull requests or commits. So let's add this. We'll say start a GitHub Actions workflow. We're not going to be done with this yet. I'm pretty confident. So let's say for number 11. All right. And let's see. That's running. I'm going to let that run. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to grab some more water, and we'll see what kind of failures we got in a minute. So stay tuned. Okay. Not surprised by the result at all. Take a look, see what failed. All right, so we are missing a secret key. Okay. We've got that in the environment up here. I think I might have deleted it by accident. Got a little aggressive. So we don't need a real secret key. We just want some value here. So let's go over here. And now we can plop this in the environment and do that. Before we push up the next thing, let's look and see if there are any other environment variables that we might have missed. So check out the settings, because as soon as it runs in one of these, it's going to complain. So it's going to get debug a default from debug from there. It's going to get the allowed hosts from the environment. The email backend is going to be safely collected from there. The account default HTTP protocol, I think, has a setting already, but it's HTTPS. I don't think that'll matter. Okay, so I think that's all we need. So, whoops. So we'll say add missing environment secret key for CI or number 11. We'll push that up. All right. We should have a new action appearing here. And thankfully, it's pretty quick. In fact, it might be even faster because, well, no, it has to, I think it has to pass before it will cache something. So the fact that it didn't pass the first time means that the caching step, I think, will not be valid yet. That's like a safety thing. But it's still less than a minute to get this whole thing done. Oh, maybe it did cache. I don't know. We'll see. I'm curious. Nope, it just got them quickly. Downloading. Cool. All right, this was unsurprising. We've done zero work on secrets or security configuration. So all of making sure that the site that we're serving is actually secure. So this deploy step here, this manage deploy check, is looking at different settings that you want to have set in an appropriate way when you go to a production setup. And we've not gone through that process yet. So I think what I'm going to do here is copy this. Well, this job might not be preserved for a long time. So instead, let's just go back and create a new issue and say handle deploy checklist. That's really what we're doing. And then update CI to re-enable deploy checks. This will make sense because what I'm about to do is I'm going to go comment out that part of the CI build or the CI flow so that this stuff will pass, and then we'll return to this later. So we've got that. We'll comment that out. Skip failing deploy checks for number 11. Okay. We're creating issues faster than we're knocking them down. That's it's not so great, but it's okay. I think we'll get there. Actions. Running the tests. Finished in 22 seconds last time, so maybe now it's caching them. Maybe that's the extra time being spent here. post set up Python. It saved a cache based off the key. Cool. So I think that'll be faster in the future. All right, nice. So we've got one half of CI. The other part of CI that I want to go to is for pre-commit. So let's go back to 11. Let's mark this as done. And then let's go to, I'm pretty sure it's pre-commit.com. And, nope, that's the actual tool. pre-commit.ci. So here's where this is a service provided by Anthony Sotilli, who is the creator of pre-commit. He does a lot of cool tools. Anthony's pretty awesome, and he's showing how fast pre-commit is here. So it's pretty darn speedy. So you barely ever notice that it's running, which is amazing. We sign up, and we're gonna authorize pre-commit. I don't think there's anything secrets here. So we're going to add an installation. I've already got my account associated with this, but I'm going to manage the repos on GitHub. This is a one-time password, so even though you will see this number in a moment here, it's not going to matter. You'd have to be really speedy to get it in the next 36 seconds or whatever. Pre-commit.ci is requesting to update its permissions. Really? Is it asking for something new? Maybe it is. Let's review the request. Sure. Allow pre-commit.ci to run checks on merge queues. Okay. I don't use merge queues, but that's fine. And then we can come down here and we can go to the repositories that I've got here, and I can select another repository, and then we can find journal in here. And then we can save it. So now I've got these projects on here, but this hasn't run yet. So there's no, the system waits until there's something to actually display. So I think we're not going to see anything further on that this evening, but it is done. And I've seen this process before, so I don't need to validate this. I'm confident that we'll see it in the future. I'm going to take this and I'm going to mark this chunk right here as finished, and then close that issue. Okay. I think we've got a bunch of stuff done, right? We've confirmed sign up. We've got the email stuff going. It's configurable. We haven't configured it with the actual mail stuff yet, but we've at least set up the backend so that it can be done. We tested all that out. We set up a basic home page and did all of that. Then we did the setup for some additional testing stuff and wrote a view test. That worked out well. There's other aspects of view tests that we're going to want to check on in the future, like how do we assert on the context of a request or the context of a response. I think, actually, you know what? I want to confirm that now. There was a way that we could possibly do that I wasn't positive on. So I think I saw that the test client, the response that it will return, gives you access to the context read as an attribute. So let's see if we can confirm that. So let's put a new assert in here and say assert. I want to see it fail. So say assert context is none. How does that go? Okay, look at that. It's got the actual, I think that's the actual context in there, the CSRF token. That's some extra stuff. What is that? Is it a different context than what I'm thinking of? Let's try print the type of response context. Whoops. A request context. I think that's the right thing. Or you know how we can confirm this for sure? Let's go to our actual view, core views. Let's put something in there. Let's put in hello world. Save that. And then come over here and say assert response context hello equal world. And get rid of those. Save it. Cool. That is the context. Nice. I was afraid that for some reason I had in my head that you wouldn't get this, but I think what I was thinking of is like if you call the view directly, like if I imported index and I use the request factory, that is another kind of fixture, and passed in a request and got a response directly from calling that view, then the response would be an HTTP response. And I don't think it has access to the context at that point. Now I'm doubting myself a little bit on that, but I think that's what I remember, because I remember having a harder time like getting access and checking context in the past. But I think with the client is doing some little magic here to intercept the actual template rendering process and get the context as it's being passed in, and then storing that in the response for testing purposes, which is pretty awesome. All right. Anyway, getting back to what we were just talking about. Oops, I don't want that either. Everything's pushed up. So we did testing. We got Signup going. We got CI going. So now I can operate with a lot of confidence that the stuff that's going through will be a really high bar. Maybe there's one bit of configuration. Let's check on some configuration stuff. So right now, let's see. Let's put in some code that I know will not run. So if false print hello. We know that will never happen. Even the editor's even telling us. So if I run make coverage, what's going to happen? So notice, well, that's just a lie. See that there? It says it has complete coverage, but I know for a fact that's not true. And my editor knows for a fact that's not true. Is it keeping around a coverage file? Lies. That is just a straight up lie. Maybe coverage is being smart and knows that it's unreachable code, so it doesn't do any of that. Okay, let's try something else here. If request method equal post, that is not unreachable code, so nothing's going to complain. That's weird. Okay. Okay, good. So it's important in my setup that I'm getting to 100% test coverage and that things fail when I don't. Because that's CI is going to keep me honest there. So if I'm not fully testing everything anymore, I would get actually an email to my regular email account that says, hey, you had a test failure. In fact, I probably have a couple sitting in my email account right now from when we first pushed up those changes to the workflow. And I need to be aware of when I'm not reaching the target. So that's good to know that that's there. Now, did I configure that somewhere? Or I might have pulled that in from somewhere and forgot about it. Okay, we did. So I must have left this here for knowing that I was going to use it. I left the coverage section here. So that's where that's coming from. Good. Cool. So that leaves us with MyPy in the future. which I think we want. So let's add that as a, let's do that as another thing that we can do in the future. So add type checking with MyPy. MyPy is a good safety net for certain classes of errors, like the famous none type error. Like MyPy will definitely, if you annotate things properly, MyPy will help guard for those kind of problems if you're accessing something with none. All right, so let's leave that there. We've got this. We haven't. It's an empty template right now. We're back. We're probably back to everything running fine. In fact, we should be at no changes in the repository. And I think that's probably a good place to conclude for the evening. So next week, I think what we can do is maybe move on to what? We might want to finish off this setup auth thing and go ahead and set up those 2 templates. And that will require us to set up a base template and put in a little bit of stuff that maps to what Django all auth expects. You know, just like we did with that email, and we use the specific context variables that needed to be there. We're going to have to create a template in our own with a form post with the appropriate input fields that have matched to a certain name that the Django view that exists within the all auth package will be able to handle. So that's the work that has to go into that step. And then I think we can finally get to some of the modeling of actually the core of the product that is actually going to be necessary for the whole system to work. So that we'll get to some fun modeling aspects. Maybe at that point we'll set up the GraphViz tools, ways to visualize our models so that we can see the system and the design. Who knows? Maybe I'll even like commit this to the repository so you could see it at a glance. That might be an interesting thing to do. So I think from there I will call it for the evening. Thank you all for tuning in, and hopefully you learned a little something along the way. Got a little bit more comfortable with how project setup goes, and I will catch you next time. I won't be with you next week because I'll be running a local Python meetup in town. So next time I'll be streaming is a couple weeks from now. Take care.